long-term relations can be strengthened by China and Russia becoming closer together. Welcome to Eagle News Channel. China is under increasing pressure from the West, which is driving it to deepen its connections with Russia, particularly in the areas of commerce and energy. Alexander Novak, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, stated on November 29 that Moscow and Beijing are collaborating in order to build a separate payment system in order to avoid being dependent on the international SWIFT system that is used by the West. These items help hedge risks and hasten the transition of the ruble and the yuan into world reserve currencies, said Novak. These things help speed the changeover. Gazprom, a Russian gas company, made the announcement in September that it had secured an agreement with China to begin accepting payments for natural gas in yuan and rubles rather than dollars. On December 14, the Wall Street Journal quoted Chinese policy advisors as claiming that President Xi Jinping had recently urged the government to create stronger economic connections with Russia. The quotations were taken from an article that was published in China. The plan calls for boosting Chinese investment in Russian infrastructure, including trains and ports, as well as increasing imports of oil and gas as well as agricultural products from Russia. Additionally, the plan calls for promoting energy cooperation in the Arctic region. According to observers, these are the most recent moves by Beijing to move closer to Moscow in the midst of escalating tensions with the West in their relations. She has worked to improve China's relationship with Russia in recent years. This relationship has the potential to become more intimate, said Yun Sun, who is the director of the China program at the Stimson Center in Washington, which is located in the United States. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has declared in the past that Beijing and Moscow are mutually comprehensive strategic partners in one another's success. The development of the bilateral relationship is guided by the tenets of non-alliance, non-confrontation, and non-targeting of third parties in order to avoid conflict. Western authorities believe that Russia's alliance with China is one of the most important aspects that has contributed to the country's ability to endure an unprecedented string of sanctions. Both Russia and China have worked for a long time to lessen the United States' global dominance. In recent years, this objective has garnered increased attention as both nations' confidence in their ability to transform the international order in favor of the West and its allies has grown significantly. The personal relationship that she has with Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia, has also served to support efforts to deepen ties between China and Russia. In 2013, on the eve of a state visit to Russia, which would be Xi's first foreign tour as president of China, Vladimir Putin made the remark that the two countries were forging a special connection with one another. Both of the nation's leaders had the same general idea of how the country should progress. During his visit to Russia's capital city, Xi said, "Putin, I have a similar view to you." Since then, the two have kept up the tradition of wishing each other a happy birthday on their respective milestone anniversaries. China and Russia have strengthened their economic connections in the aftermath of Russia's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014. As a result of Beijing's refusal to join Western sanctions against Russia in response to the move, several Russian enterprises, notably those involved in the production of energy and agricultural goods, are becoming increasingly dependent on the Chinese market and financial system. In 2017, not long after Donald Trump was inaugurated as President of the United States, signs of Mr. Xi's support for Russia began to emerge. During the election campaign, Mr. Trump made a commitment to strengthen relations with Russia, which galvanized elites in the northern states. Sutra on maintaining vigilance. According to policy experts in Beijing, President Trump's ongoing trade conflict with China has played a role in bringing the Asian nation closer to Russia. China has transferred supply to Russia as a result of reducing the amount of agricultural products and soybeans that it buys from the United States. According to figures provided by Chinese customs, the amount of money exchanged between Russia and China increased to $146.7 billion in 2015 from $95.3 billion in 2014. Many analysts anticipate that the value of trade between the two countries will exceed $200 billion this year. Russia is China's largest supplier of crude oil, which accounts for half of China's total imports from Russia, while China is becoming an increasingly important source of electronics for Russia. China has established itself as Russia's partner in Arctic oil and gas production over the course of the past several years. After Putin accepted an invitation to attend the opening ceremony of the 2022 Winter Olympics in February, Beijing kicked out the preparation process for a China-Russia summit toward the end of 2021. The summit was scheduled to take place in China. During that time period, Western nations such as the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada were leading a campaign to discourage participation in the Beijing Olympics. These actions upset Beijing, which caused Xi to make a bold remark that Russia and China have a partnership that is beyond bounds. The purpose of this statement was to convey the idea that both countries are determined to address the issues that exist within China. Analysts believe that they sense a threat emanating from the United States. However, the Russian military operation that was started in Ukraine not long after Xi and Putin met pushed Beijing to pick a deft strategy of diplomacy. During a teleconference with Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, Xi Jinping attempted to declare that China was not involved in Russia's military operation and that he had no previous knowledge of Moscow's plans. Xi also claimed that he did not have any prior knowledge of Moscow's plans. According to analysts from other countries and government advisors based in Beijing, after the situation in Ukraine broke out, Xi decided to refrain from overt diplomacy with Russia in order to avoid a response from the West. Recently, the president of China voiced his opposition to the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine to other heads of state throughout the world. China does not openly criticize or back sanctions on Russia, nor does it send weapons to Russia or openly back Putin's military campaign in Ukraine. In September, on the margins of a regional summit in Uzbekistan, the president of China and the president of Russia had another meeting. This time, the atmosphere was somewhat calmer than the unlimited encounter that took place earlier this year. During their conversation, the Russian leader expressed his profound gratitude for what he referred to as the balanced stance of Chinese friends in the Ukraine problem. Putin responded to the queries and worries by saying, "We understand your inquiries and concerns in this area." During the conversation, Xi made a commitment to Russia to collaborate on efforts to restore stability. However, according to policy advisors in Beijing, the Chinese leader also used the discussion to convey his discontent with Russia's prolonged military assault in Ukraine. This was said to have taken place during the meeting. This message is directed primarily at the allies of the United States that are located in Europe. At the time, Beijing and Berlin were having conversations regarding the trip that Prime Minister Olaf Scholz was planning to take. In a later meeting with Scholz in Beijing, the Chinese leader made it abundantly plain that he opposed the use or threat of use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. This opposition was voiced during the discussion. According to the White House, he reinforced this position during a discussion with Vice President Biden that took place on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia in the middle of November. According to a source with knowledge of the matter, the official information from China regarding the meeting did not mention this content in order to avoid giving Putin the impression that the two leaders of the US and China are joining hands against Russia. This was done to avoid giving Putin the impression that the two leaders of the US and China are joining forces against Russia. Related to Beijing. According to some commentators, the fact that Xi has taken a stance opposing nuclear weapons demonstrates that he has the upper hand in relations with Russia. An expert by the name of Yun Sun stated that it does not indicate that China is giving up on Russia. However, China is becoming an even more dominant player in this relationship. Support the channel by like and share the video. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and the bell to receive the latest news. Thank you for watching.